Hey guys, Mike here from Gunspot, and I am joined by my good friend Jess Hancock from the Wichita Gun Club, and we are going to take advantage of this time. As you know, Jess and the Wichita Gun Club are helping us with the best giveaway we've ever done at Gunspot, and we're giving away a Nighthawk Custom 1911. And we want to take advantage of talking to Jess a little bit about some of the hot topics that are going around in the country right now. And to that effect, Jess, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and especially what your day job is.
Well, Mike, thanks for having me. It's always good to come and see you guys, and we love our friendship and supporting you, and we're excited about this giveaway. The things that kind of define who Jess Hancock is, especially right now in 2020, is I'm a 28-year veteran police officer. With my agency I'm with now is a large agency. I've been there for just starting my 25th year, and I spent 4 years at a very large agency before I moved to this agency. So I've got starting my 29th year in law enforcement in two major Midwest cities, largest city in one of the states, the one that I'm currently on. And so it's a big agency, and we see a lot of things. So second thing is I'm a Christian. I love Jesus, and I think that
Amen.
defines a lot of who I am. But the third thing right now is I have an adopted son who's African American. And so we've really had to learn to navigate those conversations of what policing and being an African American in 2020 is about. And so that's just kind of who and why I'm here to talk about.
Well, and that, again, that's why it's so great to have you. You are on both sides of this racial divide that's going on in this country right now. And we want to hear, and I think everyone listening will get a lot of clarity from a police officer's perspective, who's been, like you said, going upwards of 30 years in that job, but also raising an African American son in a white family. And you are having discussions, frank discussions, with your adopted son about a lot of these things. He sees what's going on, and you get a chance to see things from a different perspective than maybe you normally would. So for this first segment, let's talk about racism, from just general racism to systemic racism, which is the big word. It's systemic. It pervades everywhere. So what are your thoughts on that, coming from your police officer perspective and a dad to an adopted African-American son?
It's a great question, Mike. It's a tough question, but tough questions are what need to be asked, and people on both sides of that conversation need to be able to hear it. So a little more background there. I go to a multi-ethnic church as our home church. Our lead pastor is African American, and so he is a man who absolutely speaks the truth and comes from a gospel perspective, but we get to have difficult conversations. And when he wants to know something about why did this happen from a police perspective, we go have lunch. And when I want to know, hey, my son is experiencing this and he wants earrings or he wants braids, and I don't know what's right in an African American culture and what that means, he's the guy I go to, and he can help me with that. And so we lean on each other during these times. So
awesome.
So systemic racism. Do I think racism exists? Absolutely. Do I think there are racist police officers? I think there probably are. In my 29 years, have I ever known or worked directly around or seen active racism? I have not. My sister just asked me just a couple weeks ago, she goes, Jess, do you think maybe you haven't seen it because the guys know you wouldn't tolerate it? And so that's a fair question. So maybe it does go on, but it doesn't go around me because I wouldn't tolerate it. And guys know that, guys and gals. So it's never occurred in my car, in my unit. And I spent 13 years in a street crime unit doing violent crime, gangs, drugs, weapons violations, and things like that. And so it wasn't a factor. Now having a black son, is racism a factor? You bet. First couple of weeks after we adopted him, we live in a predominantly white neighborhood in the east side of Wichita, and he was riding home from our neighborhood pool, and somebody called the police on him, and he was 6 years old. And they weren't used to seeing a black kid in this neighborhood and didn't think he belonged. And so do I think that there is a heart issue and a cultural issue? Absolutely. The thing that I say is different that is happening is, as the police department, we have to train on it. Every year we have racial bias training that is required by state statute that we have to go through. We do either in-person or online courses, scenario-based training for, is this racial bias, is this gender bias, is this religious bias, and we have to train for it. So we're constantly talking about it. And as a supervisor, we watch, we have squad trainings, and we talk about these things and how to deal with them. So I think as a police department, we're addressing the issues of racism. Do I think racism still exists? And I think culturally, as maybe you get into more rural areas and out of the cities, yes. But definitely in the cities, I still see it, and I've experienced it with my own son.
So compare the training that you and your department is doing now to 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Is it on a grander scale, as I would imagine? It
is a grander scale, and it's like I said, it's now part of our state statute. We're required to do it on an annual basis, and that's a good thing. And so we have annual racial-based policing or bias-based policing that we have to go through. So
well, and one of my mantras to Jess is that you have an impossible job, and it's getting more and more impossible every day, because the expectations on you to do things perfectly, when you in a split second have to make these incredible judgments, that is so easy for the press and for people to be an armchair quarterback or a Monday quarterback and say, well, they shouldn't have done this. But when you're in the heat of that moment and have to make decisions that will dictate whether you go home to your family or someone else does, or one of the men who you feel personally responsible for that are under you, it is a very high pressure thing. And to do it as long as you've done, to do it as well as you've done it, Jess, we respect the heck out of you, my friend, and all of your people out there. I get emotional because I feel for you. I wish there was something I could do, because you guys are horribly underpaid. To have to bring that home, to see what you see on a daily basis, and have to just go about your life, whether it's taking care of your family or trying to take care of your FFL. It takes a special person to do that. And we love you, and you are that kind of special person. And I bet you mentioned your faith, but how important is your faith in your job and in your walk of life, just to get through everything on a daily basis?
As I didn't become a Christian until after I was a police officer. I met my wife, and she led me to the Lord. And I now, looking back, we've been married 26 years, and I couldn't imagine how I even got through those first couple of years as a rookie officer with my first agency without faith, because I lean on it constantly. I see, people just, I pray for the citizens. I see fire trucks running to scenes. I pray for the firemen that are, they arrive safely, and that the people that are going to assist are served. I pray for every police car that drives by when I'm off duty, that those officers are safe, and the people that they're responding to in that emergency status are helped and served. And so faith is everything. I can't imagine going through life making any decision, whether it be about my business or the police department or adopting my son or raising my biological kids, without having prayerful thought and faith about guidance. So
I love that. And maybe you, as a Gunspot viewer right now, you're not very spiritual or religious, and that's perfectly fine. But we at Gunspot are. We know Jess and the Wichita Gun Club, you guys are, and we'd be lost without it. Our relationship with Jesus is everything to us. One more question in this segment. On the police force that you see every day, and being connected to people Jess, how many guys and gals are contemplating getting out of this line of work, and how hard is it to see people desiring to be in this line of work based on the current conditions and the pressures on your job?
So it's another good question, Mike, and I just got myself into a little bit of predicament because it's the first time I've ever done this, but my son plays on a 5th, 6th grade football team. It's a brand new team for us, so we don't know many of the parents, and my wife and I were sitting and eating and watching practice, and all the white parents are over here and all the black parents are over here, and it was just notable. And so Christy and I, my wife and I, we said, we're going to go over there and let's start talking to these other parents and get to know them. And
love it.
So we're over talking to this mom and asking who her son and who our son was, and she asked what I did. And I for the first time ever, I was a little deceptive. I didn't say I was a police officer. I said I own a couple businesses, which is truthful. But a couple days later, I went up to her and I apologized, and I asked for her forgiveness because I hadn't been totally true, because we live off of my department's salary and we grow our businesses. And so I told her that I was a police officer, and I was a little bit of ashamed because I didn't know how a black woman would take this white police officer wanting to come over and talk to him. And she was wonderful, and her son's been over to the house a couple times to play, and it was all on me and not on her. But it's changed. It's definitely changed in the way we feel about ourselves and the pride that I used to have. And it's there, but it's definitely diminished. For me, it has diminished. It's diminished the way I project who I am. I'm proud of our businesses and what we started and how they've grown. I'm proud of my career, but just not as out about it anymore that I'm a cop.
Do you think we're going to see a police officer crisis in the near future or distant future, with being low on being able to employ people because they're just going to stay away from this very difficult profession? Whereas I, as a kid, dreamed of being a cop and wanted to grow up to be one. But I wonder how those dreams are going to be now with our future generations.
I think that's a natural tendency or fear, but I don't think so. At our agency right now, we have our largest class in department history. We have 54 recruits currently in the class that's going through, which is
awesome.
a big class for us.
Awesome.
And so there are young people coming out of college or coming out of the military that still want to serve on a municipal level, on the county level, and on a state level. And so I think policing is going to change, and I think there'll be different types of cops than I was when I came on in '92, and so I think those things will be different, but I think there's still people that are going to have that calling, that are going to heed that calling, and that want to help, and that are going to serve.
Well, and I love what you just said there, because just like being a school teacher these days, being a police officer is a calling.
For sure.
It's if you're doing it for the money, if you're doing it just for a posh, comfortable thing, that's not for you. But whether you're a school teacher, so much respect for our teachers. Underpaid, same with police officers, military, it's got to be a calling. So we're going to talk, there's so many more things we're going to cover with Jess, so stay tuned for more segments. And don't forget, the Wichita Gun Club and Nighthawk Custom Designs are donating a 1911 that you can win. Don't forget to sign up, and we'll see you here on our next segment.
Hey there, are you still watching? I want to make sure you know we have a lot of video content on our channel, and more is always coming. We do giveaways, tactical training videos, tutorials, demonstrations, and reviews. So here's what you need to do. Subscribe to our channel and hit that bell notification icon so you can be notified when we upload a video. If you liked it, make sure you hit that like button and comment below.